All right, so we're working with word problems basically today, right? So we're going to start off with the busy one, and then we'll do the more chill ones towards the end, because it is Friday, and I think we want to get the nasty stuff out of the way before we do the easy stuff. So actually, this isn't that bad. So let's read it. Let's suppose that a car has 8.5 gallons of gas after driving 90 miles. Okay. So there's that much gas left in the tank after it's driven 90 miles. So we're assuming it started full, right? We don't know that, right? So then it says after driving 180 miles, it has 7 gallons.
For every 90 miles, it goes down 1.5 gallons. Yeah.
Right. That's good math. And you're gonna, what you just said to me, you're gonna see that kind of come out as we work through this.
Does that mean that it was originally at 10 gallons? No.
We'll see. We'll see. Let me show you how we're gonna work on this. Now, I like the thinking that I just heard you three people saying there, and I'd like you to try to connect that thinking to what I'm gonna do up here. But this sentence here is kind of important. It says, let Y represent the gallons of gas. So on your notes right now, guys, right next to Y, I want you to write the word gallons. And then it says, let X be the distance the car has driven. So we're going to say distance. Now, it's important that we understand what the gallons is, though I should probably be more specific. Y represents the gallons of gas that's actually left in the tank, okay? It's not how much gallons have been used. Y represents the gallons of gas that's left in the tank. So let's put that.
Miles, right?
Yes. I like that. Let's go ahead and put miles like Jonathan was saying. Distance in miles. That's what we're looking at. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to fill in this chart here. So they've given us 2 X values and 2 Y values. In other words, they've given us 2 distances and 2 gallons. So what's the first distance that they gave us? Hannah, pay attention. Hannah, don't get lost. Pay attention. What was the first mile they gave us?
90.
90. What was the gas that we had left in the tank when it was at 90?
8.5 gallons.
Okay. And how about, what was the second mileage they gave us?
180 and 7 gallons.
It was...
Are you trying to be better than me right now?
All right. So there you guys go. Now, what this is, you guys, is we can think of this as 2 points. All right? Because that's what it is. On a graph, we have 90, 8.5, and we have 180, 7, right? So the first thing you got to do is you got to put your data into a table, organize it out. Yeah.
I have a question. Are you supposed to write on your paper or line paper?
Whichever you prefer, but the little paper is yours. All right. Now there's probably about 15 to 20% of you guys in here that are either playing on a phone, exchanging cash, or drawing pictures right now at this given time. So
you know what you should do?
I'm not going to nag you, but I will say that I won't help you when it's time, and I'm not going to care when you don't get it either. I'll just walk past you. So if you want my help, then focus, okay?
You know what you should do?
What?
You should set up this app.
Wait, we have to write that in the table.
And then every time.
Let me focus on the lesson, Mr. I love you, but I got to focus. You kind of get me off task sometimes. All right, here we go. So complete the table at the right. So basically, the first thing you guys need to do is take the numbers out of your story problem there and toss them in the table, right? But you got to pay attention to which one is X and which one is Y. Okay? All right, we're going to go ahead and graph this data now. Ready? So,
Wait.
it'll come back. Now, which variable goes on this axis? X or Y? Y. And which variable goes over here?
X.
Okay. Now, how high did the Y values go up to? They went to 180.
So do it by
So do it by what?
90.
10s?
20.
20s? Okay.
No, because if you do it by 20s, you're not going to get the 90.
Did I do something wrong, you say?
That's on the X. That's on the X.
So 180 is a miles?
Yeah.
Okay. So what's the biggest Y value then?
8.5.
Okay. So let's just go by 1 then. So let's go up to 10. And the x is the one that goes up to 180, right? So let's go ahead. I'm going to put 180 there, and we'll go by 20. So 20, 40, 60, 80, 100, and 20, 140. Well, I'm going to just scoot that over now. 180 would be about one right there, and I'll label them. So 20, 40, 60, 80. And you're right, John, we're missing the 90, right? But it's just going to be right in the middle, so I think we're still okay. So there's that. So let's graph this. So what was my first one we had? We had 8. It was
90 miles and it was at 8.5 gallons.
So we're going to go over to 90 miles, right? And we're going to put a dot up here at 8.5. What else? We had.
And then we went 180 miles and we only had 7 gallons left.
So what do you notice about this graph? It's decreasing, right? It's decreasing. And that makes sense, right? The amount of tank in our gas is, or the amount of gas in our tank is going down as we drive, right? That makes sense. Okay, so we would accept, we would expect this to have a negative what? Slope, right? All right, so there's our graph, and there's your table again. So Hannah, this is back. So I've done this, but it's on the other page now. All right, now it says calculate the slope, right? So if we wanted to calculate the slope, what do we do again?
Y1 minus Y2 over X1 minus.
Okay, I usually put the 2's first, but yeah, it'll work. All right, so what am I, let's call one of these X1, Y1, the other one X2, Y2. So how about we call this X1, Y1, and X2, Y2. So it's going to be 7 minus what?
8.5.
Over 180 minus 90. And just like John said earlier, 7 take away 8.5. Negative 1.5. I'm going to have to erase here because I'm out of space. So we get negative 1.5 over 90. Now, what are these top numbers again? What do these represent? Gallons, right? So those were gallons. And what's this? And so what John said earlier was right. We are losing the negative, right? We are losing 1.5 gallons for every 90 miles. Maybe? I don't know. Maybe. Yeah, you're probably right. You're probably right. Good job.
Unless I'm sometimes stupid.
No, I think you're good. All right. Now we could leave it like this, or we can turn it into just a different number by dividing them. Do you guys want to leave it, or you want to turn it into one decimal?
Leave it.
Leave it. It looks better.
My mind is not ready.
Okay. All right, we'll leave it. All right, let's go ahead and find our y-intercept now. So we found our slope of our line, but understand what it represents. It means we are losing 1.5 gallons every 90 miles. Okay. Now let's go ahead and take a look at our y-intercept. So how do you find the y-intercept again?
Y equals mx.
So you take that funky formula. Can I erase this?
Sure.
Okay, so we take our formula, y equals mx plus b, and we're going to plug in a y value and an x value. So one of our points was 180 and 7, right? Is that written correctly, or is it backwards? Okay. So, and what was our slope again? Okay. And so to find our b, we just plug this stuff in. Okay. So here we go. What am I putting in for y? And m?
Negative 1.5 over 19.
And then x?
180. Well, see, that's gonna be a big number.
I don't know. Yeah, let's do that. So
No, we're
Can you guys on your cell phones for me here? Give me a little bit of help. Could you guys do 1.5 times 180 for me, please?
It's 270.
What is it?
270.
You're right.
270.
Good job.
Wait, so you already knew that?
You're a beast.
I know. Did you just do that in your head too?
Yes.
He's a wizard.
Did you just do that in your head, Joanna?
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
what's 1/180? This is just for fun. You can ignore me right now if you want. But what's 1/180? It's 180, right? What's half of 180?
90.
90 plus 180 is 270.
Whoa.
So,
Oh.
all right. So anyway, let's continue. Now this actually turned out pretty sweet. What's 270 divided by 90 on a calculator if you need to? What is it? -3. And once again, Jonathan, your number's coming up here again. If I have 7 equals -3 plus b, what do I get? What do I get?
What do you think it meant?
What do I get?
Then
10. John said that earlier, didn't he? What did you say that 10 represented, John?
That's what you got before you said
That's
that.
our full tank,
I
right? Well,
told
that's what we
you.
started with anyway. So
Intellectual.
the Y-intercept represents how much you started with. Okay? So the slope represents how much it's changing, like you're losing 1.5 gallons every so many miles. The Y-intercept represents the starting amount. Cool?
well,
And John knew that. Very, very insightful, John. Good mathing back there.
I'm intellectual. Say it. Tell me
So,
I'm intellectual.
We're
Stupid.
we're
I'm
ready.
Intellectual.
We're ready for number 6. What does the Y-intercept represent then, you guys? Write this with me. What?
starting point.
It's the starting amount. The starting Y value. In this case, gallons. Right? It's the starting Y value, and in this case, it means gallons. So the starting amount of gallons. What's my linear equation for this problem?
Plus
10, right? So negative 1.5 over 90x plus 10. All right. So why would we want to go through all this trouble of writing an equation to represent a story problem? Well, now we can answer another question here, number 8. It says, use your equation to predict how much gas there will be after 200 miles. Okay. Can I erase?
Yeah.
I'll wait a little bit.
Are we supposed to write all this on the paper?
Doesn't matter. Just, I would keep whatever you do right with that paper. Staple it or draw on there, whatever you want. Any other? Y'all good?
Yeah.
Anybody else still writing? All right. So let's go ahead and do the next part here. So it says here, use your equation to predict how much gas there will be after 200 miles. So here's our equation, right? We just got that in the last problem.
I mean, it's simple math.
Thanks, John.
Then do it.
Okay. Now, ready?
Can I speak on her?
Use your equation to predict how much gas there will be after 200 what? Miles. Now, if we're talking about miles, what variable is this?
First off, we're gonna need to figure out.
It's our x. So go ahead and put an x over that and circle it real quick, because that means that's an x number. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace the x with 200. And that will tell me what y is, and y is,
The answer.
which is gallons. How much gas is left in my tank. Okay? So,
Can't you do it a different way too?
yes.
Can't you figure out how much gas you're wasting per gallon?
Yep.
And then you do it from there.
Now, what's funny is that actually what you're saying is the same thing. You're just doing it logically instead of on paper. So, know the strategy, because sometimes it's not so easy. All right, ready? Let's do it. So, once again, I think this will be negative. I want to say it's going to be negative 300, maybe? Let me know if I'm not right, please. calculator? What's 1.5 times? Is it right? Okay. And now this is going to be icky. So what does that come out to be? What's 300 divided by 90? I'll just round to 3.3. And so what is negative 3.3 plus 10?
How many 6
Oh, no,
points?
6 points.
Times 10? Negative. Oh my god.
And that's 6.7 what?
Wait, did you say plus or minus?
6.7 what? These are this is a Y value, right?
Gallons.
These are gallons, yes. Good job.
6.7.
So what that means is after 200 miles, I would have 6.7 gallons left.
That's a lie.
Okay? Now, we just did a lot, okay? And yet, we really didn't do a whole lot that was new. Okay? Almost everything we just did, I was asking questions the whole time because you guys could spit the answers back to me because you already know the stuff. So, here's the one new part. Just a sec, John. Here's the new part. Putting your numbers in that chart just so that you're ready to go. Once you have that, you can turn those into points, right? That's not difficult. Calculate the slope, you know how to do that. Y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. You know how to do that. Here's a new one. What does the slope mean? That one you might stumble with, but give it a shot. You can find the y-intercept. That's good. Interpreting what that represents, you might struggle with that a little bit because that's a word problem issue, but most of this, number 7, you know how to do it. And number 8, this one has a trick. You have to know where to put that number. And that's based on the fact that in this case it was an x, right? Could I have also given you a y value,
Yeah.
a gallon, and asked for the miles, right? So you have to understand what the variable is to know where it goes in the equation so you can solve it. But like 90% of this is old news. It's just buried inside of a story. And here's your big helpful hint right here. Start with your table, okay? So I'm going to give you guys, when I saw a hand up though, John, you had a question?
Well, no, if you're coming out, I don't know if you can this already, but for every 50 miles you go, you spend
60 miles? 1 gallon? That makes sense. We'll keep up. All right,
I did it simply because you were going 90 to 1.5.
there you go.
Okay, just don't listen.
I'm sorry, John. I didn't mean to. I just was thinking of other things. But here's one for you guys. Now, I don't want you to write it down. That takes too long. I just want you to answer the question. And if you get time, maybe you could write it down for one another example or take a picture. But I do want you to just go and get started on it. Okay? So go ahead and finish your table. But here's my advice to you. After every step, check your answer with a neighbor, right? Because if the first step is wrong, you're not going to get the second step right. Okay? Go.
You turn the lights on.
No, yeah, put the natural light outside. And really
Shut up, Henry.
No, like, you turn the lights on, but the board's already getting color.
No, beauty. Please don't look at that.
Yes.
But I'm gonna nod, squint like
That's
that.
rude.
I'm with you. You know how often I do that to people.
Really?
I'm just like, yeah, walk away. I don't know. I'm not much of a conversator.
What we
That's actually what I do.
You're just like, you're like,
I don't know. I guess that's kind of sad.
or you just need to.
I don't want to be like that, but it's just hard.
you do that to your kids, like you're like,
Yeah.
it's like, wow.
If they don't know how to talk, like I got a little
Like somebody-
5-year-old who's still
Okay.
I guess.
Or
I don't
somebody
pronounce
like-
things. and something
Wait,
like
oh, I
that.
forgot you have young kids, huh?
So,
What's the youngest? I mean, what's the oldest?
did you guys do your math? We'll talk to you.
No.
No, I'll talk to you later. Do your math.
Like, what if somebody was
We'll
saying
talk
you
later.
can't understand it, would you just laugh like you knew what was happening?
Sometimes. Do
What
your
if it
math.
was something dark? Just starts laughing.
Good job.
Like somebody tells them something dark and like,
Good math.
That's the risk you run.
I didn't tell you.
No, it just says 3 and 9 months and 11 and 23 months.
What's this? What are you looking at?
I don't know. You don't
They
look
totally
like
agree with
That was so fun.
That's like gonna be except when you're not listening.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, I didn't get that.
So I have no idea. What are you looking at? Because it says prior time. No, it's time to
9 months, 3 inches
sit
there.
down, then I just want to move. 300. 600, right? Because when I sit down, you know, and then I don't want my too tired to get up. So I'm sitting there like down. And I'm not. That's too far up, and it hit my face. I don't know right number. I almost had a dream. I'm back to see what.
Henry, Anna, you guys aren't working.
Oh, no, I am working.
Can you guys get focused on the math?
Going back.
You're probably right. You're probably right. But here's, and when I take a test on this, I am going to ask you such questions as what's the slope, what's the Y-intercept, what's the equation. But you're doing good.
180 after power rate. I
But
checked the 180.
that means you're thinking about what all this means. And that's good.
Your coffee smells so good right now.
I'm gonna wait. I made it perfect. I like my red paper.
Did I say days? Oh, let's do weeks. Let's do weeks. Don't do days. You could, but
Mr. Bailey, do you have a stapler?
can you guys change? Yeah, it's over there on that table. Can you guys change this to? This is supposed to say weeks.
Oh, I didn't even notice.
Yeah, it's a subtle detail, but somebody did.
How many weeks do you need to go until it's out? Dead, gone, no more water in the pool?
Is that what it's asking?
No, is that what you want?
I don't know. No, I don't think I asked for that.
Oh, after 7 weeks.
So what's our, so we should at least have number 1 done, right? So I want to make sure everybody's on the same page here. So every once in a while I'll come up here and ask a few questions. So Adrian, what'd you get in this column here?
X is 3 and 5.
So 3 and 5. And what's up with the Y?
300 and 180.
And this was what
That's
now?
what we're looking for.
Y represented what? Gallons?
Yeah.
More gallons, okay. How about over here? Weeks? Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's that. You guys should have graphed your data too, right? So what's your largest Y value? 300, so your Y-axis needs to go up to at least 300, right? And what's your largest X value? 5, so that just needs to go up to about 5. So X-axis 5, Y-axis 300, plot your points. Eric, how's it coming along over there? Eric, how's it coming along over there?
You know how much water is going to be in the pool?
I'll be going. Nice. Give me a slope and
Get how much water you lose per week.
I have your answer though.
Good math thinking. I like it. You have the answer to number 8, and you low key have the answer already for 3 and 5. I can be cool too.
She said low
Where
key.
can
Hold
I
on.
plug?
My mother tells me so.
Oh, that's really bad. It's not fun. Or good.
She tells me, handsome and cool.
Are you still? Oh, just-
Your mother must be a very good liar.
Why? I thought you were. Whoa, he's not getting serious, bro. That's a fake.
There's one right there.
Where?
There's one there. No. There's one in the
Yeah, I hurt your feelings.
Dang, I want to go to sleep. Well, I just want to go home.
You have no feelings.
Stop.
You're already over.
All right.
Wait, so these are our notes for today?
Yeah.
That's today?
Bless you. Augustine, did you get your slope yet?
How do I
What'd you get?
calculate the slope? I have the answers.
I got 120 over 2.
Great. I think that's right. I'm going to go ahead and reduce it. It's negative, though. So negative 60 over 1. So Augustine got negative 120 over 2. Now, let's interpret that a little bit. That's negative 120 what? Gallons over 2 weeks. And we just reduced it to this, right? So that means I am losing 60 gallons every week. Okay? I am losing 60 gallons every week. All right. So that's what the slope represents. It's how many gallons we're losing every week. So that's the answer for part 4. All right. Part
I
5.
have the answer to that. Now we're using a week.
Check your answers with neighbors.
60 over 1 or 60 over 6?
60 over 1. So it's just 60. That's what? You can't point at it because I don't know what you're pointing at.
Might work. Let me see.
That's all I got.
What did you plug in for your X?
I don't understand it.
No, it's
The way that you did your slope is it's upside down.
Oh, wait.
No way.
I have my
Oh, it will actually be no work. Yeah.
Oh,
Your graph would look a lot different. It's not a lot, but slightly different. So you do have a different meaning. What you've got is you've got a function where basically the X represents the gallons and the Y represents the but it's supposed to be count. So you actually get all the same answers as everybody else, except if I actually slope and say negative 160 instead of 60.
She don't like it. She
That's
don't
the
like
only
it.
thing.
no, I didn't.
Oh, you did it
I did it the wrong way. So we're like, it's 100.
Okay, let me see those. Look at all. I'll pop back there to you.
Or 150, 150, or 100.
Okay. Well, we're not done yet. We have these things. I'm just giving people some time. So, there's 10 minutes of class left. You might even want, I don't know, we might just stop here, but you might want to watch the video, see if we actually get to this, okay?
You're doing a whole different wrong one. Okay. We're doing a lot. Okay. So,
There you go, first thing done. Second question. Third question. You already got that. You know how to get that?
No.
Okay. So, you want to remember the role of one line? Yeah. Or should we grade? Yes, that's right. You know the verbs to get that.
I was like, what's the 30? Oh, it's right. Sorry.
And then 5 and 3.
Beginning of production.
So I'm Okay. You read this out, you would guess like at 1.9.
I don't know.
No. Right.
120?
1.8. Negative.
Okay, now how do I?
So then even from the out.
Oh,
I'm just kidding.
Like, I don't know.
Alright, so that's 3, 4. So interpret what the slope of revenue is. So if you read the problem, read the problem.
Alright, guys, thank you. I said thank you.
You're welcome. Leslie, sure that's.
Okay, so
Let's put 8.
what does the slope
Sorry. Today's the 23rd. Going to class.
So if we're losing negative 60.
And what time is it?
2:31.
2:31.
Yeah. So
All right. Okay, so let's see what you guys got now. David. David, what'd you get for your Y-intercept? Number 5? Okay, it is 480. It is 480. Now let me ask another question. Just real quick, guys, quiet down. Gabby, this is 480 what? It's gallons. Right? Remember how this? Now let's talk a little more about it. Gabby, what does the Y-intercept represent in this problem? The starting amount of gallons, right? So before the pool started losing water, that's how much it had. So this is the starting point, or the starting amount.
When
All
it
right.
comes down to the graph, can I like explain to you my whole thing? You know I have.
Are we not done either?
Raquel,
Want to challenge you right
am I saying your name right?
yeah, she said yes.
Raquel, what would our linear equation be then?
This?
Well, it's all up here, right? We have everything we need to write.
Is it Y on this?
No, it's the Y equals something X plus something. Yeah, so what is our M? Okay, that's all right. Let's see if someone else can jump on for us. Vanessa, what is our linear equation here?
Negative 60x plus 480.
That's right. So we have our slope, negative 60, and we have our y-intercept, 480. All right.
Whoa, what's this?
So we have one more thing. It's number 8. So I'll give you a little bit more time to think about that. But for number 8, you got to think about what they're giving you so you know how to use the equation to get your answer, okay? Use your equation to determine how much water will be in the pool after 7 weeks. So they told me 7 weeks. So what variable is that?
X.
It's an x, right? Because x is weeks. So I'm going to take my equation that we got in the last problem, negative 60x plus 480.
Yeah.
And what am I going to do to answer this question? You're going to put 7 where?
Substitute for X.
That's right, because it's an x value, right?
And you put the, in parentheses, yeah.
And then if I solve this, you're going to get negative 420.
Yeah. What?
Oh, 420. And then after that, we combine these, and what do we get?
You get 20. Or I'm sorry, negative. No. Oh my god, I suck at math. 60.
There we go. And it's 60 what?
Gallons.
That's a y value, right?
Yeah.
So that's gallons. But understand, I could have asked you guys a question where I said, how long will it take for there to be like?
Good afternoon,
Never mind.
Eagles, just as a reminder, we have a dance in the small gym